Hi, I'm Liz Seeley, founder of Starry-Eyed Strategy, and I help you turn creativity into your greatest competitive advantage. After decades partnering with the world's best, biggest, and most beloved brands, I want to take you behind the scenes to see how the most creative leaders turn ideas into impact. Each episode features leaders from top CEOs and CMOs to founders and authors, revealing how they stay inspired to create brands that launch and last, and how you can do it too. You'll walk away with practical lessons and tools you can use, whether you're repositioning your brand, rallying your team, or planning your next big launch. So let's get started and stay starry-eyed. My guest today is Marita Swift, Vice President of Strategic Growth at the Big Biscuit. Big Biscuit is a Kansas City-based breakfast and lunch concept where she leads franchise development, market expansion, and growth strategy across the system. Part of what makes Marita's story so compelling is the path she took to get here. She started her career as a chef and made her own personal rebrand moves to get into brand marketing and now brand strategy and growth. We're excited, especially to talk about how she has rebranded herself and also brand and expands her concept. Her work has earned national recognition from Franchise Times, Entrepreneur, many, many more. The Big Biscuit has taken home multiple years of Best Breakfast honors. Marita is a certified franchise executive, a sought-after speaker at our industry events, including Women in Restaurant Leadership and the Franchise Innovation Summit, and a committed mentor to the next generation of leaders. Marita, welcome to Stay Starry-Eyed.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Excited to chat with you today. Marita, before we jump in, what do you hope the brand leader listening will take away from our convo today? What's one thing you hope they'll try or maybe think differently about for their own brand?
Yeah, I think like what you and I were just chatting about before this started, if you can really do anything that you set your mind to, if you're not a brand leader, but you want to be one, or if you are a brand leader, but you're kind of finding the next venture, it's really about kind of setting the vision for yourself and getting really serious about what you want and then taking the actions to get yourself there.
Exactly. My dad always says, if you don't think of it, you can't do it. So envisioning what that perfect either position or lifestyle looks like. And I am just so intrigued by how you started your personal brand journey, if you will, and I think you will, and then also how you've applied that to the Big Biscuit. But I told you before that I shared with my kids what an inspiration to think about, where you want to be and make it happen. So for the leaders listening, Marita, you've done so many different things, different jobs, executive chef, culinary director, brand strategist, now VP of growth. Tell us how you started and what those early experiences taught you about brand building that you still use now.
Well, I started off in the fine dining and I was doing like prep cooking and expediting in fine dining in my teenage years. And then that went all the way through college. And in those years, these are like the 90s in kitchens. So I was always kind of a salmon swimming upstream, if you will, male dominated fields, a lot of kind of chaos in fine dining kitchens during those years. Everything was very manual. All these pieces of technology didn't exist. So the workload was tough. And then all of my experiences in scratch. So that's just inherently really challenging. So I always kind of just worked against the system. And I think that for me, I like challenges. And maybe that's just like kind of how it all started. I saw something as really difficult and that just like was compelling to me. I'm a lifelong learner for sure. And so just figuring out something that was really hard and knowing that I didn't know, there was so much I didn't know and so much to learn was really attractive to me. And it really kept my interest for a long time. So in the space that I was, the scratch kitchen I was working in, it was actually like a 12,000 square foot wedding and event and full service scratch restaurant. So it was really more like a hotel without rooms. So I learned everything from, expo where I started. So that's like all the, garnish and the cold side, learned the hot side when a chef walked out, which is like just something that you deal with at that level. So learned how to grill like in the moment needing to.
And that means a chef walks out, they quit and you jump in and you just learn it on the fly.
Mm-hmm. Learning how to grill when someone walks out. Learning how to bake. I can remember the first time I made creme brulee crying because I just like messed it up 3 times in a row. which I ended up like changing my whole strategy of making creme brulee. But just trial and error all the time, just kind of always at a deficit, if you will. Like it's an impossible task. Scratch kitchens, fine dining, restaurants that are that big. It's an impossible task. It's long hours. It's hard, but it's artistic. And it's there's so many. I realized this later when I got out of it. There's so many dopamine hits that you get in these scratch environments. You're constantly having success. Every appetizer you put out, every rush you push through, every prep day where you get the list done, even just like your retention on your team. These are like huge wins for survival. And so there's like so much energy that I miss now that I'm not in it. And like it took me a long time to kind of adjust to these like much more steady kind of like office job where the projects are longer and you're not getting, you're just not forced to act as quickly and move on your feet as quickly. But yeah, so I cut my teeth in fine dining. Almost always worked back of house. My mother was a chef. I grew up watching her on TV. She was kind of like in there with Martha Stewart. She was sewing, she was gardening, she was baking, she was a chef. So like I grew up with this female influence, which also like when I kind of think about that, I'm like, wow, she was doing that in the 70s. Like she was really at the top of her game and really, you know, out of the norm. So I had her as an influence. So that's kind of where I guess I got the idea of all of this, which she and I have had many, many conversations about of like, it's a harder lifestyle for sure. But when you are so passionate about food, it's like being an artist. I mean, to go to work every day and get the butter and the sugar and the eggs out is such a joy. So it kept me interested for a really long time. I ended up like bringing a scratch bakery into my concept. So I've done like hundreds of wedding cakes, everything but bread. Like we did scones, but not bread, tarts and the cupcake frenzy that went on for a long time. We were all over that. I mean, really just playing across the board in, weddings and events, corporate catering, fine dining restaurants, and then like a full scratch bakery.
That's
So
wild. Well,
yeah,
I wondered how you got into that. That makes a lot of sense if you saw your mom doing that and mastering all of these skills. So you kind of followed in her culinary footsteps. Tell us a little bit about, and that also, I like to think I have a tiny glimpse only because I've seen The Bear. That's like what the lay people
and
know
I don't,
about.
and I've never watched it.
I don't know if you should. A lot of times, chefs who've lived it say it gives them PTSD. It might be better this
I'm
way.
good. I don't
But
need
you're operating up here. Tell us then about how you decided to course correct maybe and take a different path, especially because, like you said, it is so crazy. Tell us about that rebrand process. How'd you go from chef to growth executive as the unconventional career arc?
Yeah, so I also always wanted to be a mother. That was never like a question in my life. So I got married relatively young. I was 25, which now feels like a child bride. Had my first baby at 28 and just was trying to navigate all of that together, which is really, really tough. Luckily, at that point in my career, I had a lot more flexibility. When you run an operation that's 7 days a week, day and night, you can get some flexibility, because anytime that you clock in is you have the full calendar to clock in on. But it just became not sustainable. It was like a decision my husband and I had to make together of like, this isn't the we need the weekends back. We need the time with our family. But so when I figured that out and made that decision to the time I was actually able to execute that was really hard. So I kind of thought like, oh, I have all these soft skills. People love these soft skills. Like that's going to be easy for me. I can add value in any concept that I'm in because I'm a hard worker and I, think outside the box and I, can take direction and I'm a strong leader. And that is not how it was when I actually went to like put a resume together and put myself out there. So that was kind of a rude awakening for me. Really struggled to tell the story of how I had all this operations and innovation experience and how I could relay that into a different title. And also it was an executive level. So I think that was probably also, a little bit more challenging for me. And I'd done it for so long. People want to hire someone that's an expert in exactly what they're going into. They can say that soft skills matter all day long, but at the end of the day, it's less expensive for the company to hire someone that has the full experience in exactly what they're going for. So it was really hard for me to pivot.
I
Um,
love what you're talking about because not only is that so relevant from a career perspective, even in marketing leadership, a lot of marketing leaders will try to move from, say, restaurant to the fitness world, and or vice versa, like even a category switch, and the fundamentals are exactly the same, but a lot of leaders will say, oh no, you don't have this category experience. Or all these people who are pondering their next act, maybe they're midlife and they want to have a whole different pivot. It is very difficult to
mhm.
do what you did.
Yeah, it's really difficult. So what I did was I rewrote my resume and I got rid of everything I didn't want to do. So like as if I had never managed a team before in my life. Just kind of kind of positioned the copy around my brand, right? So now I'm going to talk about innovation. I'm going to lean into the things that I want to do and kind of where I can see a vision for myself, and lean away from the things that were kind of causing me burnout. So, and I did that, but that still didn't really move the needle. So really what I did, in full transparency, because I do think it's helpful for people, I rewrote my resume to the job I wanted. I studied job descriptions as if it were like the novel I was reading. I kept like a whole folder and would like highlight pieces of job descriptions to kind of identify like, where do I make sense in this new kind of world that I'm going into. And I didn't realize like that marketing was going to be specifically where I was going through the lens of innovation. When you're an executive chef in a fine dining restaurant, there was no marketing department. There was no menu innovation team. There was no test trial of a product. It was, you know, that didn't even like occur to me at the time. Like that's just not how we run things. Like maybe we read some magazines and stuff, or we eat at other fine dining restaurants is really what we do. That's how we get it. So you get it through your peers, you get it through the people that you respect, or you read about it. And so anyway, I tried to rewrite the job description, and then I studied kind of the market of what I wanted, and I had to reposition myself. I had to take my brand that was over here and completely reposition myself into what I wanted. And so it was kind of a threefold. One was like through copy and through the resume itself. One was I almost immediately contacted a girlfriend of mine that had a marketing agency and said, I need to work for you. And I said, I need to do a stage with you. And a stage is when you go into like a fine dining kitchen and you work for them so that you can gain that experience. She's like, you need a what with me? But I came in and worked with her and just did some contract work for her, and just needed that on my resume. I needed the example of an agency and of marketing role on my resume based off what I was seeing in these job descriptions. And then three, I went back and did a certification from Cornell in brand management. My degree was in psychology. So I guess from the beginning, I thought, oh, I have this degree in psychology and all this great executive experience. Obviously, I'm, amazing and I'm going to be easy to be hired. And that was just not the reality at all. So between those three things, it took me about 9 months to really make the pivot.
So I love this, and it's like a little master class for those who are ready to rebrand themselves and to pivot career. So the three-pronged approach again, so I understand it. It was studying all the things that outlined where you could fit, but also aligned with what you loved, and removing what you didn't. Kind of takes me back to What Color Is Your Parachute? You remember that book where it was like, what are you passionate about? What do you love to do? Now align that with jobs that actually exist, which is exactly what you did, finding those descriptions. How do you actually make money doing what you enjoy? So, and then updating and using that to update your qualifications, your resume. Then I love what you said about staging. I got to work for free to figure this out. And your training, getting that certification so that you have the education and the credibility on both counts.
Mm-hmm. And then by the time I did those three things, I had 3 job offers. But I mean, it was like when I finished with my certification, I immediately had 3 job offers. So then I was like, which job do I want? which, you know, was another kind of interesting thing because I ended up staying in food and beverage. The other two were agency jobs because brand strategy, I mean, so in the agency world, it was like, now I have this niche. Now I have the inside on hospitality. So I could be a really strong person in an agency that could relate to hospitality clients or build their client list with hospitality. And that was really appealing. I actually had an opportunity to be a creative director, which sounded crazy because I wasn't a graphic designer. But again, at the executive level, I mean, you're the innovator. You're the one seeing around the corner and dictating like an entire menu. I mean, you're basically like the look and feel of this brand and how it's coming across and all the things that you're doing as an executive in a fine dining concept. You know, they saw the qualifications then. So,
Brilliant.
yeah.
Brilliant. I love what you did. I also think it's a good reminder to some, there's no reason to have excuses. Oh, I could just never leave. Like, what am I? I'm stuck in this. It's like, no.
It was tough. And I did, my husband worked 2 jobs during that period of time.
Yeah, because what did your certification entail?
I was certified brand manager. So I was doing the stage at the agency. I was studying, like, you know, what I wanted to do. I mean, I was looking at jobs every day, all the time, all the alerts, looking through things, sending out resumes all the time, and then doing the classes. So I was at home doing that, which I had 3 kids. It was actually just that was also just such a great blessing to have that little bit of time where I could like take a run in the afternoon. And, you know, I've talked to women since that have like had career setbacks and ends up being like some of the sweetest time of their life because it allows you to slow down. I mean, it like forces you to slow down. And that can end up being really bittersweet.
Yeah, you might consider it more of a challenge to overcome professionally, but I've heard that too, that a lot of times it's so valuable, that precious time at home with especially little ones who are growing up so fast.
Yeah, and I was really concerned about wanting to make sure that my resume was protected, which is why I worked with my girlfriend in the agency because I didn't want. I'm like, I can't have like a blank space. Like, first of all, I'm not capable. If you're going 1,000 miles an hour, you're not capable of just having like this blank space. But it was, you know, really important to me that I was like filling it with the next thing and learning the next skill set and putting myself in a position for the next kind of like career, if you will. So yeah, it was, you know, I call it like pulling back, you know, the arrow to shoot more directly. And that stuff doesn't necessarily happen overnight for everybody.
That's right. I also love what you said about a stage. One of our previous podcast guests, her name is Briar. She's the TED Conferences, TED Talks coach. So she works with all these world-class speakers around the globe to get them ready for their big debut. Her husband is going to do a stage to learn more about cooking at one of our local restaurants. And we have I don't want to spoil it in case, you know, we make it real, but the life stage is going to be a thing. We're going to make this where you can try out a lot of different things and get really good.
No, it is. I mean, that's what you do. You go into like the back end to kind of check it out just to understand, like, do you even like this work? You know, and it's basically like an internship, but
Exactly.
it can be, I mean, stages can be paid. It's, you know, it is where you're getting it and who you're getting it with. But
That's right. I think we can reframe this, the stage as the adult internship. Like, it's never too late.
yeah, well, for me, what I did in my particular stage, well, okay, I actually did 2 stages. I actually also worked at a James Beard award-winning kitchen for like a year doing brunch with them. Because I wanted that experience outside of what I was doing. I didn't want to go work in a James Beard kitchen, but I wanted to have that experience. And I worked with them for a year too, and I would like trade. So I would get to have like these 10-course meals with my husband, just like kind of whenever I wanted to.
That's amazing. All right. See, you're giving everybody good ideas. You could do a trade. You could do complimentary. You can.
I mean, basically what it is like if you can get the experience, that's going to set you apart. Right. So however you get it, people pay for education. You can also get experience in other ways. But those are differentiators, right? Like we have to differentiate ourselves. So if you're not willing to put in that work and to do these things, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to differentiate and pivot yourself. So
Exactly. And tell us too about your personal rebrand when it comes to your name even. So now you have this whole new skill set, this new certification, you have the credentials. Tell us a little bit about the personal element too.
Yeah, so my middle name is Kelly, and I my family called me Kelly from a young age. There was times where I would use my first name in college. I never like corrected a professor and told them that like I go by my middle name. But when I was really coming out and trying to like make space for my kind of new brand, Kelly is challenging. I was one time I did a cooking show on like a local TV station, and there was a chef Kelly right before me. So it was two chef Kellys in a row on this live show. And I'm like, this is challenging. And it was back kind of when it's like, you know, you have like this SEO dominance of these words. And Marita is just so distinct. So it was just like another way for me to kind of like own who I was. So as I was like coming out and trying to represent myself as this person and this expert in this specific field, I could own Marita through Instagram. I could own it in Gmail. I could own it with maritaswift.com, which I no longer keep up with. But like I could have that space when I meet someone like you and then you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, it's just I can own it. So I felt like that was another way for me to kind of distinctly put myself out there and say, I'm this person. It's easy to find me. I am the only one of me, and I can like own this space more. And so I started using my first name.
Brilliant. It is very memorable.
Yeah, I mean, it's just there's not two.
Yeah.
So there's a lot.
And
There's Kelly's is harder. It's harder when your name is common.
yes, exactly. So what advice would you give now that you have turned the corner and now you've been in this new realm for a number of years? What advice would you give to someone who does want to make the move, regardless of where they might be in their career?
I mean, I think that studying it was really helpful for me. I think that I wouldn't have been able to have the clarity that I had without like studying. Like I literally was kind of like, what is the dream job? And then talk to people about, you know, like innovation wasn't even a word I was using at the time. And then I'm like talking to friends of mine that have more experience in like chain concepts, and like to them, you know, menu scientists and innovation are like the hot word. So like starting to like I actually kept like a whole sheet of vocabulary. Like I had to learn marketing vocabulary. Of course, I knew marketing like from a soft skill perspective. I knew that I needed to be separate. I knew that I needed to have a value proposition. I knew that I needed to create value and memorable experiences. And you know, I competed in weddings and events, and like so there was a lot of competition, and there was a lot of you know, high dollar tickets and experiences that had to be flawless and things like that. But I had to go in and like learn the vocabulary of a marketing agency and a marketing department and a chain, you know, marketing experience, which is really same in a lot of ways and also very different. So being a student of what I was looking for, I think was really helpful to me. And I would highly recommend. I've told people that before when they tell me like, oh, I changed jobs in my company and I'm overwhelmed and I have imposter syndrome and I'm struggling in these ways. I'm like, start a Google Doc, start a spreadsheet. Even right now, I'm in the process of reading like 8 different books that have been recommended to me that are in marketing, just so I can like just be sharp. I mean, I have had to kind of come from a deficit in a way. In one way, I have this like beautiful ops experience that is very unique, and a lot of operators don't get to have that. And even operations experience at scratch, which operators that I work with don't necessarily have that. But I also am at a deficit, right? Because the language that I speak now is different. And I've had to be a student of that language. And I have to read a lot of articles. I have to study the words. I've had to read the job descriptions. I mean, even like bios, you know, going on LinkedIn and like when I want to write my own bio, reading several others to kind of understand like, how do I want to come across this realm and how do I want to set myself apart? And I guess part of what it is for me is like, I'm really passionate about that now. After having gone through that and like having that be such a challenge, I'm a big advocate for people like your personal brand. You need to be thinking about it all the time. You need to be thinking about what the next thing that you're interested in and what the book that you're reading that's going to set you up for that. And the mentorship. I love to have virtual coffees with people. I like adore virtual coffees. Let me just pick your brain for a hot minute. Like I have a virtual coffee and I'm blanking on what her name is, but she does all the innovation for like Dine Brands and Capital Grill. This is like dreamy to me. I'm
Yeah.
like, all the innovation for the Capital Grill, that's a brand I grew up with. My husband worked at the Capital Grill. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this is like before unreasonable hospitality, the Capital Grille would go get pizza. If you wanted pizza because they're a steakhouse, they don't have it, they would run across the street and get pizza for you. I mean, these are like, you know, and so if I can pick her brain and understand more about like how she approaches innovation and how she works across departments and stuff like that, then I can just learn all the time. So just being like a student of learning and being vulnerable and um, positioning yourself and just like finding your passion and leaning into those things. And the mentorship, I think I just, you know, and also like we're women in the restaurant industry. So that's like a whole other part of it is, you know, we have to push for each other. We have to push each other forward and you know, help each other understand like when you want to make these changes and when you want to climb like this, there are steps to getting there.
That's right. Speaking of that, really well said. You're really involved in women in restaurant leadership and mentoring that next generation. What's one thing that you want to pass on? And maybe what's something that you wish you had known? Like if you'd had a world mentor.
Yeah, well, something I told my mentee last week was, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, if you aren't having the higher level conversation, they will hire someone above you that will. So, as much as people want to push you down in the day to day tasks of the job, because someone has to do those tasks and those tasks are a pain point and you've created content calendar and you have to mark off XYZ, someone will have the higher level conversation. So, it's either going to be you or it's going to be someone above you. So, my suggestion is to always push for that higher level. If you like that, you know, I mean, obviously, like we all have our thing, right? But don't get stuck in the work. Focus on the work and try to keep a balance of those two things. Even if, you know, even if at the detriment you don't get something done, but you're having that conversation and there is more, the opportunity cost of not having that conversation is greater. Because so I'm in brand strategy, strategic growth. I've always had strategy in my title by design. I wanted to have strategy in my title because I think that that's really important. If we can't focus on where we're going, or I always tell people, you got to look up, quit looking down right here. Pick your head up, look out. What's the 3 year? What's the 5 year? What's the big plan? What's the opportunity cost of walking in the wrong direction? If you're so focused on the task list right here every day, then you're not necessarily reading the articles, following the industry, learning from the people that have come before you that already know. Like you've got to tap into those things. You've got to tap into that network and keep yourself elevated. That is, you know, what I wish someone would have told me, you know, 20 years ago.
For yourself, your own brand, and for the brand you may be building at the time. This is so refreshing because I can't tell you the number of brand leaders, except for George Felix of Chili's, of course, another podcast, who are just worried about the day to day. I just need ideas, like just fill the pipeline. Like we're like, well, do you want to step back and think about like what the brand is about or where it will be in the next 3 to 5 or what the positioning might be of how it's unique, what you're sick. No interest in that.
Yeah.
Let's just do what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, or like hyper focusing. I don't like to. I kind of like always. I use my hands a lot, but it's like if I'm hyper focused on my sales last weekend, like what is that doing for me? I don't need to be hyper focused right here. I need to be thinking of my sales of this period, my sales of this quarter, what I'm doing today that are going to impact sales in Q1. You know, if I just am so focused on, oh, this one little thing made an increase of sales by, you know, some small percentage, that is not strategic. That is like that's actually, it's good to look at all of it, right? It's a balance. But if you know, if you're running a tight marketing department, again, if you don't have this conversation and this vision, someone's going to. At some point, someone will be having that. So it is either going to be you or it is not going to be you.
That's right. So prove yourself worthy. When I was at KFC, it was a balance, definitely, because you lived and died by the stock price or the daily sales reports. But you were also, as you course corrected for whatever promotion was ongoing, thinking about the next one. Like, how are we going to beat year ago? What does this mean for the next window, the next year?
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit of both.
Yeah, a little bit of both. A little bit of both. We like to keep kind of our board with Like we have everything on our shared board for our department from P1 of last year on. And so we're kind of like looking at these guest counts and these sales per period from like further back. Like, let's look at this trend together. Let's not just be focused on how we did on the LTO that's running right now. Let's think about the LTO strategy for this year and for next, the menu strategy for next year based on what we learned over the last, 7 months, and what we learned at conferences this year, what we're learning right now that we need to implement into our business, that we have to convince everyone around us that this is the white space and this is the opportunity, and all these things. And I think that my ops experience really has helped me with. I can prioritize, because when you're in a kitchen environment, like, you have an event at X amount of time that actually has to be executed at that time. And so it's easy for me to like shuffle the deck and like say like, actually, this is going to be more, if I don't start this in this week, then there's no way that 6 months from now it will be ready. So I'm pretty good at like kind of manipulating things like that. I think that's an example of a soft skill that I have that I brought in.
I think it's more of a superpower, especially layered on that you're a working mom. They always say if you want something done, give it to a working mom.
Yeah, and I do the B2B and the B2C for the Big Biscuit. So the business to consumer team reports to me, and I have a fabulous, wonderful team. And then I kind of head up the B2B more or less by myself. They will create assets for me and kind of support me, and I have a PR agency, but right now we're just a one man show. So it's a lot to kind of balance between those topics. These are two completely different brands essentially.
Huh. Yeah. Well, the perfect segue into the Big Biscuit. Tell us about how it operates in this crowded space and a little bit about what you're planning for. What does your role entail? And then tell us a little bit about brand differentiation in the category. How do you protect that as you scale with both consumers and franchisees, which is what you're referring to, B2C, B2B?
Yeah. So the Big Biscuit is impossibly generous portions of classic comfort foods and genuine hometown hospitality. So we are a very community centric brand. We have a very classic and familiar offering, and there's a lot of nostalgia around our brand. We feel like we are kind of a modern day twist on a very classic, very familiar breakfast experience in the industry. Our products themselves are very traditional and very recognizable, but they have playful twists on them, and our brand is playful as well. We're only open 6:30 to 2:30, so we have this like really beautiful built-in work-life balance that kind of works along all of our teams. That is something that's really, really a great thing for all of us to enjoy. Is we get to be done at 2:30 every day. So that's part of a core piece of the culture that we have here. But we have 31 restaurants currently: Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. We are a franchise concept, but we own 22 of our 30 units. So we're majority corporate. And the way that we approach it is, we established a brand architecture. That was one of the first things I did when I came in. I'm on my 5th year here at the Big Biscuit, but I came in and established a brand architecture, the mission, vision, and values, and just tried to say, like, who is this concept and what do we stand for? And then how do we activate on that? So our mission is to have healthy partnerships with all of our guests and everyone that touches our brand. And we have, our values, and we've put those into our restaurants and are trying to activate on them. And from a marketing perspective, we try to spend our dollars in those ways. So we're very community centric. The Big Biscuit, like, physically is tucked into the communities that we serve. So we have a lot of inline concepts, and we're not necessarily by the freeway or like high traffic areas. We might be like tucked in next to your grocery store. So we really try to make like these strong ties with the chamber and with the high schools and things like that. We do a lot of activation around like teachers appreciation. We give away a ton of stuff. We do a big school supplies drive that we kick off with a breakfast eating competition. We collect PJs around the holidays for kids in poverty. So we really try to say our pillars of community, food insecurity, and public education are ways that we activate from a marketing department, and how we spend our LSM dollars and how we want the community to feel about us. We want to have the live broadcast of the football highlights from the Big Biscuit, and we do. Like, they're in there, the radio or the TV departments are coming in on Monday and talking about the reels from last Friday's football game at, table 20 in the Big Biscuit in Oklahoma. And that's kind of how we want to show up as a brand.
Yes. That's awesome. I love that you did that first thing. Like, stop everything. Let's pause and it doesn't take that long, just a little bit to confirm all the brand foundations so that everything else is so much easier.
Yeah, it's really helpful. And it's just kind of guiding. So we just hired a VP of people in the last 2 months. And just this morning, just chatting with her about, ultimately that mission to create positive experiences is for every person that touches our brand. So whether I'm chatting with you at a conference and being respectful and showing hospitality and being kind, or answering at the phone at headquarters, or I'm a new dishwasher at one of our locations, just to create that hospitable experience across the board. And how do we make sure that everyone that interacts with us has that kind of same feeling of genuine hometown hospitality?
I love it. I also love how you apply that to the keywords like generosity and how that's reflected in your portions, but also how you treat people and the community involvement. How have you seen that help not only the day-to-day, like you're saying, it informs everything the brand does, but the differentiation component, the Vicious Biscuit, Biscuitville. You're also up against, I would imagine, Bojangles and even KFC and all the other biscuit bars out there. How has that helped to stand apart?
Yeah, I mean, there's little things like we don't say brunch because we're not boozy. We say breakfast and lunch. And so that's a differentiator for us. The Big Biscuit it's more family centric. We're going to spend more money at in the high schools being in their program and stuff, because we're not the spot that the 20-year-olds are coming in for mimosas on a Saturday. We're the spot where the offensive line is coming when school's out today and getting the 3-car pileup. So we kind of just own it. We're like, this is who we are. We're not the brunch spot. We're the breakfast and lunch spot. Our tagline is don't mess with breakfast. So it's like, we keep it simple. We kind of identify there's a cowboy at the heart of our brand, so it's like this kind of, it's like, it's all American. It's a little rugged. It's a little masculine, but it's also super, hot and trendy. Like the cowboy is classic, thing that's never going out of style. And we have a little innovative twist on it. So one of our brand visuals is a cowboy riding a biscuit with a big cowboy hat on. It's like, how can we kind of be this person and show up as that person? So when things start to get complicated, we're like, but that's not the heart of our brand, is this rustic, this classic, easy buttered biscuit, plate-sized pancake, thing. So we don't want to be too foofy. We don't want to be too elevated. We're not having a turmeric latte. We want to keep things simple. And then there's things about that, that we try to have data support. So we have 6-minute ticket times. We have 33-minute table turn times. The Big Biscuit, you can get in and out easily. You know what you're going to get. You come in, we have 3 table sections, so the servers have more time at the table with you. We're giving that hospitality. You're getting undivided attention. All of our tech stack kind of enables this quick and easy experience. We're not serving booze, so people aren't lingering. They're able to come in, get breakfast, and get out, and it's reliable and consistent and simple, and things like that. So
that's awesome. I'll bet the B2B audience appreciates that as well, keeping it simple and focused.
Yeah. We do have a really big menu, so it's something for everyone. It is big, but there's a lot of cross utilization, and we do lunch and breakfast. So there's, we can bleed into the lunch day part and things like that. But operationally, things have always been set up for that 6-minute table, that 6-minute ticket time. So everything in the back of house is the least number of steps that a person would be able to take to execute on the line is something that's thoughtful and deliberate with us. So we've always been built to scale. Our founders have experience in QSR, so we always had the intention of being a franchise. We always were made to scale, but it's been a very thoughtful scale. So we don't want to just franchise to franchise. We're not just trying to find anybody that wants to potentially have a breakfast concept. We're looking for people that are really rooted in the communities that they serve, that have the experience in hospitality, that have the experience in franchising, that want to have a bigger investment in our concept, that, we really align with culturally. So we've been a lot more thoughtful and slow to try to push our franchising out. And we're doing it a lot with corporate. So it's like we have our skin in the game, and every impact that we make on this business is felt first by us and most by us at this point. And we intend to always have at least 30% invested.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. What have you seen from a business standpoint work well, especially in this environment? I know a lot of QSR companies are not having a good time considering gas prices and all the craziness economically. What has been working well at the Big Biscuit as bright spots?
Yeah, I mean, so some merchandising. We've found that there's some white space in lunch for sure. So we kind of re-merchandised the way that our menu lays out. So we're showing visuals of lunch products, and we've been able to drive some traffic into the later part of the day part, which has been really successful. We actually just started doing third party in the last 6 months. So that's been really impactful to our business. And there was a lot of reservation around like the quality of the food and wanting to protect the experience in the restaurant, and total understanding of why we didn't do it. But we did kind of a big research study on who our target audience is, and it's significantly younger. And it's like, what do they want from us? We have to solve the pain points for the guests that we have. And so we started it, and it's just, it's just been really successful, and we haven't really had any reason to believe that it's not fully sustainable for us. And we're about 6 months in. So that's been a big win for us. And we've done a lot for building our culture. We've done a lot for building our culture. We've just hired a VP of people, but we're just trying to work on like communication and like sharing things more broadly. We have a learning culture here at the headquarters. So it's like professional development, talking across departments, working across the departments. I have this ops experience. So like it's been easy for me to work with our VP of operations because he knows that I understand what he's up to. So when we talk about menu innovation, we talk about change, we're not just talking about it in a vacuum. It's not just like some great idea that's not grounded in reality. It's always taken through the lens of operations. So working across departments is really important to us, building a strong culture, lots of communication, accountability. We have executive syncs every week. We have one-on-ones every week, so that we're kind of able to communicate and keep these bottlenecks from building up. Our menu innovation meetings is really cross department. So we have like finance and operations and marketing all at the table together, saying like, where do we see the white space? Where do we see the trend? What are the operational challenges of that? Is that financially sound? Like we're all coming together as a group and kind of working on the strategic direction of our company. So those are some of the ways that we've really been able to feel very successful right now, though I do recognize that it is a challenging market for a lot of people.
But that's wonderful that, yeah, you're bringing the cross-functional leads together regularly so that you can either be prepared for what's to come and or keep your head up. Look over here.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the brands do it really well. Some of the brands that you named also feel very modern, but I feel like just we have to be a really modern brand. So it's anything from like the visuals of our brand. So like the Big Biscuit, and I'm on my 5th year, but like when I came in, it's like all new visuals. We didn't use any images that already existed within the brand. We kind of did a very small tweak to the primary logo because it had kind of a retro circle on it. So we like dropped the circle. Let's bring that to a little bit more modern. Let's confirm these brand colors, how we use them. Let's get all new imagery and really try to make sure that we're showing up as a young brand. We're 25 years old, but with our vision to be nationwide, we're in infancy practically. The legacy brands are significantly older than us. So really we're very, very young. And so we need to feel young. We need to feel like the modern day up and coming brand through the copy, the strategic positioning, and through the visuals of our brand.
And like, yeah, the look and feel, I feel like really matches the personality you outlined. It's much more bold and fun, and yet simple. Yeah, where you won't have to update it all the time. Much more timeless.
Yeah, and it's just so fun. I mean, branding is so fun, right? Like, who are you? What do you stand for? And how do you act on that? What a great job.
The best jobs.
I mean, as long as you're with a company that stands for something.
It's going to be all right.
Yeah, and people are willing to take action based off those things, which, it can be hard. It's like business decisions, branding decisions aren't always fully aligned. So it's like you're constantly kind of working against those things. Can it work for the brand and also work for the business is kind of the constant conversation.
That's right.
Yes, it can.
What you outlined, yes, it can. And what you outlined is not just for the marketing people, it's for the whole company. It's
Oh
for
yeah.
the whole business. The
Oh yeah.
branding exercises guide the business.
Yeah, I'm working on like kind of I'm doing a presentation at a QSR and technology conference coming up, and it's like the same friction points that our guests have, our teams have. And if we can't build strong teams and have a high retention rate, then we really can't give that hospitality because now they don't know the name of the regular and they're not at the store for multiple years managing it and building the relationship with the community, and they're not building a relationship with the chamber. So it's like we have to create that seamless experience for everyone, not just for the guest. It needs to come across again at headquarters, the delivery driver, the relationships and the networking that we build, and the teams that we're establishing and building all need to kind of have that same, how do you have that same experience? It needs to be modern, it needs to be, relevant, and it needs to be hospitality driven.
Mm-hmm. What is an example of that, Marita? Maybe an example of the tension you mentioned they share that you might feature in that presentation.
Oh, well, like we did a handheld POS. So we were noticing that our teams were not on the floor. That some of our guests were coming in and not being greeted. That people were waiting to, get their ticket paid. That the teams were in the back of house, kind of trying to share a system so that they could put their orders in. And so we started doing handheld POS, and it like decreased our ticket times. It allowed our teams to spend more time at the table, building relationships, giving that hospitality. There's not as much reason for them to not be in the front of the house. And everything went quicker in the kitchen as well. Like all the systems were smoother through technology. We were able to elevate hospitality. And that's kind of what this whole deck is about is technology doesn't need to limit the human touch point. It can elevate it. It doesn't need to replace humans. It can give us more human interaction. We can buy back our time through technology. A lot of what we learned at the marketing summit.
True. Where we're actually leveraging technology to expedite the things we don't want to do so we can focus on the human element.
Exactly.
Well, Marita, we're going to switch into a little starry-eyed sparks, a little fun lightning round. How do you personally stay creative day to day?
Oh, how do I stay creative day to day? I'm probably too creative day to day. I keep a lot of notes and stuff. Like I do try to keep, I try to keep my thoughts high level. And so I read and I keep like little notes and things like that and little messages. And I think that the ideas are the creative for me right now.
Love that. And what are your favorite sources when you think of what might be inspiring?
I mean, I love going to conferences. Honestly, I get so much value out of my network and out of the conference. It's, traveling is challenging because you still have work to do, but I never, ever leave a conference not just feeling like I have a full new vision on how to approach something.
Totally. You do a good job of really immersing too, not like the people who are on their computers in the corner. What are some of your favorite conferences to go to?
Well, I love Women in Restaurant Leadership. That's the kind of the first one that I really went to, and it was like so awe-inspiring. And I'm really passionate about women in the industry because I came up as a young woman in fine dining, and that was just a special little moment in history that only other women that have had that experience could really relate to me on. But really passionate about that particular one. It's just nice.
Shout out to Satine, since we'll see each other in Arizona in February.
It's just nice to have like true female energy sometimes. I went to RLC for the first time this year, and I loved that because I love like where the industry is going is really interesting to me. And then I did my certified franchise executive designation with the IFA last year. So multi-unit is nice, and the IFA conferences I can learn more about franchising, which is not something that I have as much experience in. So I love to learn. So when I can be in an environment where I feel like I don't know anything, that's really attractive to me. So I'm like, oh, I have so much opportunity to learn here. And franchising is a huge, huge business model that spans way beyond restaurants. So
Too true.
yeah, so that's an interesting one for me as well.
Yes, I love that. We'll have to have another pod all about franchising. I started at Yum Brands, and I have such a passion for what that is and the business leaders behind it on both sides.
It can be misunderstood too, which is interesting, and it can be exploited. I mean, there's some things. It's a highly regulated industry in part because people have taken advantage of that model.
Too true. What's the best or most inspiring book you've read? And that could be lately or of all time.
Well, we have a book club at the Big Biscuit, and this is a book that we read not too long ago. The Ego is the Enemy, and this is such a good book. It's just like all the things that we struggle with on a day to day and across our departments are so much based in our ego. And if we can kind of understand that these frustrations are really egoic, like even conversations about like overwhelm. It's like, okay, if you feel overwhelmed, are you struggling with that and feeling upset because you want to be perfect and that you think that you can execute things flawlessly? Like, is this an egoic? Is there a stem to the ego into this like upsetness? Like, you're overwhelmed, but like you just have to clear off some of the things and you're not going to be able to do it. Like, own it. Own that there's not capacity here and that I am going to reprioritize this and like feel confident in that. And then you don't have to feel upset. You can just feel like I have 1,000 things and I've chosen these 4 because I think that, again, the opportunity cost of not focusing on them is greater than what I could accomplish by these small things. So just kind of like being able to see the ego, whether it's like relationships with your friends, relationships with your family, how you feel on a platform like LinkedIn where you might have like imposter syndrome, like just seeing it all the time and being able to separate from the ego is so powerful. So
Love that. Really good examples too. Okay, we'll have to pick that one up. We're going to do a summer reading list for the months to come here. That'll be perfect. What's a brand you admire that's not your own?
Oh gosh. A brand that I admire that is not my own. I mean, I love Whole Foods. I get joy when I go to Whole Foods. It's like the closest grocery store to my house, and I'm grateful for that all the time. I'm also one of those people that goes to the grocery store on their day off, like first thing, like because I'm a foodie, and so I'm like, oh, I'm off today. Let me go buy some buttermilk. Like that's just a thing I do. But I just feel like it's so creative. There's quality. It's fresh. They're fun. Like they have like a band that plays on Friday nights and people are walking around having a glass of wine, listening to music, like grabbing fresh produce. I just think it's such a fun brand. I really like it.
I share that love of Whole Foods. I was saying the other day that, on Legally Blonde, Elle Woods goes to the nail salon to feel safe and in a foreign place. I like to go to Whole Foods when I'm on the road, even sometimes. I'll go to the salad bar. My husband's like, why aren't you going out to a restaurant? I was like, I just love it here. Yeah, I just want to see what's new at the grocery store.
I do. And it's such a good example of how the brand is so powerful. It's like you have the products of Whole Foods, but there's been, versions of Whole Foods that are so different because the branding is completely different. The products might have been very, very similar, but the Whole Foods takes its brand very seriously and they do a great job with it.
That's right. Yes. And I like that the footprints are different. It shows they're a little whimsical.
Mm-hmm.
What's one word that describes how you want to lead this year?
How I want to lead this year? One word that would describe me would be like tenacious. So just kind of getting in there, or resourceful. How I want to lead this year? I mean, probably this year I probably need to like do more like just sitting with moments, to be honest. How I am and what I need to do for leadership might not always fully be the same. I have a lot of passion, again, my experience. Like I try to understand it and I'm like, I come from like a really kind of an aggressive space. So sometimes I think that ways I could improve my leadership is to just be a little bit more of like, again, listening or letting the things play out and then kind of circling back. I like to kind of be proactive. And so sometimes that can kind of get me into trouble.
We have that in common as well. One new thing you'd like to try this year?
Oh, one new thing I like to try? Like food wise or just experience?
Anything.
I mean, let's go out to another foreign country this year. I love traveling. So some people work to live to work. I work to travel. Well, I'm hoping to take my daughter to Europe early next year. My son's going to Spain with my brother for 6 weeks this summer, and I'm super jealous. But when he goes, it makes me feel like I'm going. So that's a win. Love camping, love traveling. My husband and I went to Turks and Caicos last winter, took the family to Tulum a couple years ago. So fun. So I do the best when I have my next vacation already booked. But my husband just got a new job, so we've kind of been like chilling on that for a minute. But that's what gets me excited about year to year.
Love it. And how about your go-to walk-on or pump-up song?
Oh my
What do you
gosh.
play? What are you going to play before that big presentation or your next new store opening?
Oh gosh. I don't know. I don't know if I have that. I've been listening to a lot of Rihanna lately, which kind of was not my thing. Like I just feel like I could have said that, 10 years ago probably. And I'm just now starting to get nervous. She is so incredibly talented. My daughter and I went to the Billie Eilish concert, and she was also just absolutely, I like can't skip any of her songs when they come on.
Good
Um,
one.
yeah,
Good
I'm
one.
a Swiftie. I mean, I'm Marita Swift, so I love all of Swiftie things, and
Oh,
I'm
you've got to be.
a big fan of her.
Marita Swift has got to be a Swiftie. Of all those artists, those three, is there one particular song that stands out?
One particular song that stands out? No, I can't say there is.
Okay, we'll give them all to you. How about your favorite cocktail or mocktail?
Yeah, I don't drink right now, it's kind of a wild thing, but my kids have gotten older, and I just like was getting really severe headaches, and I think as we get older, it's just like harder to drink. But I used to love to have like an Aperol spritz. That was kind of like a go-to thing for me. Um, I mean, I've had more gin and tonics than a person should ever have in a lifetime, but that's neither here nor there. I definitely was, in the bar scene during the craft cocktail craze. And I'm pretty sensitive to sugar in my cocktails. So like I'd like some fresh mint. I love a gin and tonic, things like that. Not too much. I really, even if there's like this amazing cocktail, I would be like, or mocktail, like half the sugar, and then it's like too sweet for me still. So
Yes.
I like to have things that are not sweet. I don't like sweet wine. My favorite drink probably of all time is just like a really good glass of Pinot Noir
Very
or
nice.
Sauvignon
Very
Blanc.
nice. Yeah, and not too sweet. How about Marita? What is one mindset or action you'd encourage brand leaders to try after listening to today? Especially, we've covered so much, and like I said, I just admire all that you have done from the personal rebrand. I think it's such a good, inspiring example for other brand leaders, but also for that next generation, even our kids. Our kids will be ready to apply some of our brand strategy lessons to themselves to find what it is they're meant to do in this life.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I truly believe that nothing's been given to me. I've had to kind of see and take. And so I feel like if you want something, you're going to have to see and take it. And so how you get there is through, having that vision, like you were talking about earlier, and then putting that plan of action together, and then not giving up on it, or being willing to kind of, when I came into the Big Biscuit, I took a step back professionally to then make a step forward. So I went from being a director to being a manager, but then I was a VP. So in a 3-year window. So being willing, like not, being willing to take a step back to take a step forward, and also just like not giving up on what your vision could be, and then putting the puzzle pieces in to kind of build that and let time happen. And then like network, ask people, jump on a call, ask someone that does the job that you're looking at or something that you think is interesting. How did they get there? How did they approach it? What are they up to? I think that is really valuable for people.
Wonderful advice. Well, it's been so much fun to be with you. Thanks again for sharing your ideas, your inspiration. Who's a creative brand leader you admire and think we should invite next to stay starry eyed?
Ooh, a brand leader that I think we should see next. I think Mindy Armstrong does a really good job. She has met with me virtually, and I am just like, your vision and what you've done for yourself and kind of how you approach things is so powerful. And I got a lot out of a virtual coffee with she and our director of marketing not too long ago. So I think she'd be a really interesting. Have you had her before?
I agree. She's not been on yet, but we did just do some innovation work with Mindy and her Tropical Smoothie Cafe team. And
Yeah.
she's amazing.
She's very
She'll be a perfect next guest, Marita.
Yeah, she's great. So thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being with me, and I can't wait to see you at the next conference.
Okay, take care.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Stay Starry-Eyed podcast. I hope today's conversation sparked new ideas, strategies, and tools you can use to move your brand and business forward. If you enjoyed this episode, here's how you can help share it with your fellow brand leaders who need it most. Hit follow, share it with a friend, and please leave us 5 stars or a quick review. You know we love all the stars. You can also find show notes, resources, and additional inspiration at starryeyedstrategy.com. Until next time, stay starry-eyed.